First Great Ninja War. This was the conflict that proved creating shinobi villages didn't automatically mean peace. And honestly, it is one of the most important events in Naruto history, even though we don't see much of it directly. Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha founded Konoha thinking they'd end the constant clan warfare of the Warring States period. Right, they had this vision of children not having to die on battlefields, of clans living together in harmony under one unified village system. The other great nations looked at what Konoha accomplished and followed this model by establishing their own hidden villages in the land of wind, in the land of earth, in the land of lightning, and in the land of water. Sounds absolutely perfect in theory. But here is what is wild to buy. Within just a few decades after these villages formed, the entire shinobi world exploded into the first global war that rivaled the chaos of the Warring States period itself. The First Great Ninja War started because these newly formed nations immediately began competing for land, resources, and political power. Creating villages just concentrated the military might into organized forces, which actually made large-scale warfare more possible, not less. Madara himself actually helped trigger massive tensions before the war even started, when he confronted Onoki and demanded that Land of Earth become subordinate to Konoha. Can you imagine the arrogance of that demand? Madara wanted Konoha to reign supreme over all other villages, and this kind of aggressive posturing from one of the village founders showed how fragile the new peace really was. The other villages weren't about to accept subordination, and distrust between the great nations grew rapidly. Hashirama desperately tried to prevent war by distributing the tailed beasts among all 5 villages at the first Kage summit, hoping that giving each village immense destructive power would create a balance that maintained peace through mutually assured destruction. That plan completely backfired in the most predictable way Tembadi, giving villages like Land of Earth and Land of Lightning 2-tailed beasts. Each just made them feel confident enough to start expanding their territories by force, believing they now had the military advantage. The war itself was absolutely brutal on a scale not seen since the Warring States period ended, and honestly not much is known about the specific battles, because so many records were lost during the chaos and widespread destruction. Very few surviving documents detail what actually happened during the conflict, which tells you how devastating it was. Suvan people were too busy trying to survive to keep detailed historical records. What we do know is that all 5 great shinobi countries took absolutely devastating losses that crippled their economies and military strength for years afterward. The scale of violence and destruction was unprecedented in the New Village era, plunging the world into chaos that nobody had experienced since the clan wars. It fundamentally changed how shinobi approached warfare, moving from small-scale clan skirmishes to coordinated village-level military campaigns involving thousands of ninja. Combat tactics and strategies developed during this conflict became the foundation for modern ninja warfare. The battle formations, communication networks, and tactical approaches used here were still shaping battles decades later when Naruto was growing up. The war also forced villages to start sending incredibly young kids to the battlefield, a horrifying practice that continued in future conflicts and became normalized in shinobi culture. Children who had barely graduated from the academy were thrown into combat because the villages desperately needed every available fighter. This practice traumatized entire generations of shinobi and created a cycle where child soldiers became an accepted part of ninja life. Tobirama Senju, the second head of Konoha and younger brother of Hashirama, actually died near the end of this war in one of its most significant moments. He was leading a small team on a mission when they were ambushed by Land of Fire's Kinkaku Force, an elite unit known for their incredible power. The Kinkaku Force had actually eaten the flesh of the Nine Tails and gained some of its chakra, making them monstrously strong opponents. Tobirama realized his team couldn't escape with him there, so before sacrificing himself as a decoy to let his subordinates escape, he named Hiruzen Sarutobi as the 3rd head of Konoha instead of Danzo Shimura. That decision alone changed the entire trajectory of Konoha's future. If Danzo had become head of Konoha instead, the village's direction would have been completely different, probably way darker and more militaristic given Danzo's methods. Hiruzen's team tried to return and save Tobirama, but they arrived too late. They managed to prevent the enemy from taking his body and pushed the Kinkaku force back across the battle lines. But the second head of Konoha was already dead. This loss devastated Konoha and showed that even the most powerful shinobi could fall in this war. The First Great Ninja War finally ended with an armistice treaty that established exactly 20 years of peace between the nations, mirroring how World War I ended in real history. The 5 great village leaders met in the neutral land of Iron to negotiate the terms, and after months of discussions, they signed the Treaty of Funkaku-gai that formally ended hostilities. But here is the thing, Fundindi, that peace was always temporary, because none of the underlying issues got resolved. The villages were still competing for resources and influence, still viewing each other with suspicion and distrust. They just needed time to recover from the massive losses they'd taken and rebuild their military strength. The armistice was more like a forced timeout than actual peace. After the war, Konoha established the memorial stone where they engraved the names of every ninja who died in service to the village, a tradition that continued for generations. Kakashi would visit this stone regularly to honor Obito and Rin, and it became a somber reminder of the cost of war. Other villages established similar memorials, acknowledging the incredible sacrifice their shinobi made. The war had another lasting impact. It proved that the tailed beast distribution system didn't prevent conflict at all. If anything, it made villages more willing to go to war because they had these ultimate weapons at their disposal. The First Great Ninja War basically set the stage for everything that followed in the Naruto world, proving that just changing the political structure from clans to villages wasn't enough to end conflict when the fundamental problems of distrust, competition for power, and resource scarcity remained unchanged. The dream of lasting peace that Hashirama fought for remained just that Thuntinti Fina dream, and the shinobi world would suffer through 3 more devastating wars before that dream could finally be realized. Second Great Ninja War. Approximately 20 years after the first war ended, right when that armistice treaty expired, the shinobi world got dragged into another massive conflict that some argue was even more impactful than the first. The 5 great nations had used that peace period to rebuild their military forces and recover economically. But this rapid recovery created dangerous new tensions as villages started challenging each other in small border skirmishes that quickly escalated into all-out war. The nations were picking sides and creating factions in a desperate bid to accumulate more resources and expand their spheres of influence. The Hidden Leaf was identified as the primary instigator according to Nagato, who later became Pain, and this perception that Konoha started the war created lasting resentment that would have consequences decades later. Most of the fighting took place in the Hidden Rain village, which got absolutely devastated since it sat right in the middle of multiple great nations, territories between the Land of Fire, Land of Earth, and Land of Wind. The village became a free-for-all battlefield simply because of its geographic location, and the civilian population suffered tremendously as foreign ninja used their homeland as a war zone. This is the war where the legendary Sannin earned their title in one of the most epic encounters in shinobi history. Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru were part of a Konoha military operation in Hidden Rain Village when they encountered Hanzo of the Salamander, the unofficial leader of the Hidden Rain. This wasn't just a regular skirmish Thuvernti. They fought against Hanzo with an entire Konoha battalion backing them up, and Hanzo proceeded to annihilate everyone. He wiped out every single other Konoha shinobi in that battle, killing them with his deadly poison and overwhelming combat skills. But these 3 Thundithen Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru, they survived. They actually fought Hanzo to a standstill where he couldn't finish them off, which was absolutely insane considering he just massacred an entire battalion. Hanzo was so impressed by these 3 surviving his attacks and showing incredible skill and determination that he gave them the title Legendary Sannin as recognition of their strength and potential. He believed that warriors with strong wills who survived despite being defeated were no less than heroes, and his naming of the Sannin eternalized their legend across the shinobi world. Hanzo himself was an insanely powerful and terrifying shinobi with one of the most unique power sets in the series. As a child, he'd been implanted with the poison sac of a black salamander, a creature native to the Hidden Rain, in an experimental surgery meant to create a ninja immune to toxins who could poison others. The procedure worked but left him so toxic that his mere breath could poison and suffocate anyone nearby, forcing him to wear a mask, constantly to protect others from his venom-laced exhalations. His combat abilities were ridiculous and tinvine. He could summon Ibuse, a giant salamander that sprayed poison gas across entire battlefields, wiping out dozens of enemies in seconds. The great nations actually ordered their shinobi to issue fleon sight orders if they spotted Hanzo on the battlefield, because engaging him was basically a death sentence. His reputation was so fearsome that even elite jonin would retreat rather than fight him. Hanzo also fought legendary samurai Mifune during this war, and was so impressed by Mifune's willingness to sacrifice himself for his comrades that he spared the samurai's life and gave him an antidote, showing that Hanzo had a code of honor despite his deadly nature. Tsunade became the most influential of the Sannin during this war by completely revolutionizing medical ninjutsu and changing how shinobi squads operated forever. Before Tsunade's innovations, medical support was inconsistent and poorly organized, leading to preventable deaths on missions. She introduced the concept of having a dedicated medical nin in every 3-man squad, which dramatically increased mission success rates and kept way more shinobi alive during combat. This system remained standard practice for decades afterward and became one of Konoha's greatest advantages. She also successfully countered all of Chiyo's poisons during their encounters, which was a massive achievement since Chiyo was Land of Wind's master of poison techniques. Tsunade earned worldwide fame as the greatest medical nine alive, and her contributions are credited as a major factor in Konoha's eventual victory in the war. She saved countless lives with her healing techniques and trained other medical nine in her methods, spreading her knowledge throughout the Leaf's forces. The Second Great Ninja War also gave rise to other legendary figures who shaped the series' future. Tsukumo Hatake earned the nickname Konoha's White Fang for his incredible skill on the battlefield, with his reputation supposedly rivaling even the legendary Sannin. His mastery of kenjutsu and lightning fast combat made him one of Konoha's most valuable assets. But here is the tragic part: Tufin Sakumo later abandoned an important mission to save his teammates' lives, and the village ostracized him for it. The people he saved even turned against him, blaming him for the mission's failure. Unable to handle the shame and isolation, Tsukumo took his own life, and that event shaped Kakashi's entire worldview about the ninja code versus protecting comrades. Should you follow the rules absolutely, or is protecting your friends more important? That question haunted Kakashi throughout his life. Onoki, the leader of the Stone Village, also distinguished himself during this war, leading Land of Earth's forces with his dust-release Keki Toda that could disintegrate anything on contact. But here is where the Second Great Ninja War's impact gets really tragic and far-reaching. Fumen. This war created the conditions that led to the Akatsuki's eventual formation and Pain's attack on Konoha decades later. The fighting devastated Land of Rain so completely that the infrastructure collapsed and the population was left to starve and suffer in the ruins. 3 war orphans, named Yahiko, Nagato, and Konan lost their parents and wandered the destroyed village trying to survive by stealing food and hiding from the constant battles raging around them. Nagato's parents were actually killed by 2 leaf ninja who broke into their home looking for supplies, mistaking the family for enemy combatants. This set Nagato on a path of deep hatred against Konoha, specifically, planting seeds of resentment that would eventually grow into his Pain persona. The young Nagato, who possessed the Rinnegan implanted by Madara years earlier without knowing it, was already incredibly powerful, but didn't understand his abilities yet. Jiraiya encountered these 3 orphans during the war and made the decision to stay in Land of Rain for 3 years to train them, hoping to help them find a better path than revenge and violence. He taught them ninjutsu, survival skills, and his philosophy about breaking the cycle of hatred. During this training, Jiraiya discovered that Nagato possessed the legendary Rinnegan, the same eyes the Sage of Six Paths had, and began to wonder if Nagato might be the child of prophecy he'd been searching for. By the time Jiraiya left, Nagato had mastered all 5 chakra natures at just 10 years old, showing absolutely ridiculous talent. Yahiko eventually founded the original Akatsuki, with the dream of bringing peace to the Hidden Rain and preventing it from being used as a battlefield for the great nations' conflicts. Their goal was noble then create a powerful enough organization that the great nations would have to negotiate with them and stop treating smaller villages as disposable war zones. The Second Great Ninja War lasted several years with intense fighting between Konoha, Hidden Sand Village, Hidden Stone Village, and Land of Rain primarily, though all 5 great nations were involved to varying degrees. Hiruzen Sarutobi led the Leaf through this brutal conflict and came out victorious, securing Konoha's position as one of the strongest villages, but every nation suffered heavy casualties and economic damage that took years to recover from. The war ended with Konoha in a stronger position than before, having proven the effectiveness of Tsunade's Medical 9 system and the power of the Legendary Sannin. However, the devastation in places like Land of Rain created the seeds of resentment and hatred that would eventually blossom into Pain's assault on the Leaf Village decades later. When Pain attacked Konoha and nearly destroyed it completely, that violence was a direct consequence of the suffering the Hidden Rain experienced during this war. The Second Great Ninja War showed that even when one village wins, the cycle of hatred and revenge continues, creating new conflicts down the line. Third Great Ninja War. This conflict erupted approximately 10 years before Naruto was born, and it was arguably the most consequential war in the entire series because it directly shaped basically every major character and set up the events of the main story. The war started because the 5 great nations were experiencing a significant decline in their national power and international influence, following the resource drain of the Second War. This led to desperate border skirmishes, with smaller nations as the great powers tried to secure more territory and resources to restore their strength. These smaller battles spread like wildfire across the entire shinobi world, engulfing nation after nation until virtually every country was involved in the conflict. While the fights were initially confined to the great nations and their surrounding territories, the actual large-scale war broke out after Hidden Stone Village instigated a major attack against the Leaf Village, and neither side was willing to back down. What made this war particularly brutal and devastating was that it became an unprecedented war of attrition that drained every nation's military and economic resources to breaking point. Villages were so desperate for troops that they started throwing incredibly young children onto the battlefield, 7 kids who had barely graduated from the academy. Some as young as 5 or 6 years old were sent to die in combat. This practice was absolutely horrifying and traumatized entire generations of shinobi. Kakashi graduated from the academy at 5 years old and became a chunin at 6 during this war, showing how desperate Konoha was for capable fighters. Itachi Uchiha experienced this war at just 4 years old, witnessing death and destruction that shaped his entire philosophy about peace and the cost of conflict. The war's brutality and the sight of children dying on battlefields convinced many shinobi that the village system still hadn't solved the fundamental problem of endless war. This is the war where Minato Namikaze earned his legendary status as the Yellow Flash of Konoha and became the most feared shinobi in the world. Minato's mastery of the Flying Thunder God technique, a space-time ninjutsu invented by Tobirama Senju, that allowed instant teleportation to marked locations, made him the fastest shinobi alive by an absolutely ridiculous margin. He could mark enemies with special kunai, then teleport to them instantly and eliminate them before they could react. His speed was so insane that he could take on more than 50 enemy ninja by himself and end battles in literal seconds, appearing as nothing but a yellow flash before his opponents were dead. His tactical genius combined with this technique made him unstoppable on the battlefield. Hidden Stone Village was so terrified of Minato that they issued flee on-site orders to all their troops. If they spotted the yellow flash on the battlefield, they were ordered to retreat immediately rather than engage, and abandoning the mission to flee from Minato would be considered desertion. That is how completely he dominated the war. Other villages issued similar orders, making Minato one of the only shinobi in history that enemies were officially told to run from rather than fight. The war really escalated when Hidden Stone Village launched major offensives against the Leaf, trying to cut off supply lines and capture strategic positions throughout the Land of Fire. Most of the conflict between these two villages focused on control of key bridges, mountain passes, and resource-rich territories. The Battle of Kanabi Bridge became one of the war's most significant engagements, where Konoha forces tried to destroy Land of Earth's primary supply line. Here is where things get personal for the main characters and the entire series. series. Plot: Minato led a three-man genin team consisting of Kakashi, Obito, and Rin Nohara during this war. On the mission to destroy Kanabi Bridge, the team split up, and Rin was captured by Land of Earth's ninja Kakashi, who just been promoted to Jonin at 12 years old, wanted to complete the mission, while Obito insisted they save Rin first. They argued about what mattered more, the mission or their comrade's life, reflecting that same question Tsukumo's death had raised. Obito eventually convinced Kakashi that their friend's life was more important, and they went to rescue Rin. During the rescue attempt, they were ambushed and a massive boulder came crashing down. Obito pushed Kakashi out of the way and was crushed on his right side, with half his body completely destroyed. Dying beneath the boulder, Obito had Rin transplant his Sharingan eye into Kakashi's damaged eye socket as a gift for becoming a Jonin, telling Kakashi to protect Rin with his new eye. Kakashi and Rin barely escaped as the cave collapsed completely, and they returned to Konoha believing Obito was dead, except Obito didn't actually die soon. He was rescued by an elderly Madara Uchiha, who was hiding in a secret underground lair, kept alive by the Jido statue, and waiting for someone to carry on his will. Madara replaced half of Obito's destroyed body with Hashirama's cells and white Zetsu matter, saving his life but also setting him up to become Madara's successor. Later in the war, Rin was kidnapped again, this time by Land of Water ninja, who performed a horrific procedure. They sealed the three tails inside her body, and placed a seal that would cause the beast to rampage once she returned to Konoha. The plan was to turn Rin into a living weapon that would destroy the Leaf Village from within. Kakashi rescued her, but Rin realized what had been done to her during the escape. Understanding that she would destroy her own village if she returned, Rin made an impossible choice and she deliberately threw herself in front of Kakashi's Chidori, impaling herself on his lightning blade to prevent the three tails from being released in Konoha. Kakashi was absolutely devastated, standing there with his hand through his teammate's chest, not understanding why she'd done it. But here is the truly tragic part. Obito witnessed this entire scene through his Sharingan from a distance, having finally recovered enough to leave Madara's lair. Seeing Kakashi's Chidori pierce through Rin completely shattered Obito's worldview and destroyed everything he believed in. The sight was so traumatic that both Obito and Kakashi's Sharingan evolved to Mangekyo simultaneously from the emotional anguish. That single moment set in motion literally everything that followed. Obito abandoned his former identity, fully embraced Madara's philosophy that this reality was broken beyond repair, and dedicated himself to creating the infinite Tsukuyomi, where Rin would still be alive in an illusory, perfect world. He became convinced that a world where children kill each other, where friends die meaningless deaths, where the girl he loved died by his best friend's hand fought, that world needed to be destroyed and replaced with a dream. This decision would eventually lead to Obito manipulating Nagato, forming the modern Akatsuki, capturing the tailed beasts, and starting the Fourth Great Ninja War decades later. One tragic death in the Third War created the main antagonist of the entire series. The Third Great Ninja War saw other massive developments that shaped the story. The Akatsuki, which Yahiko had founded as a peaceful organization after the Second War, tried to negotiate peace in the Hidden Reign and end the suffering. But Hanzo was manipulated by Danzo Shimura, who secretly wanted war to continue, so he could increase Root's power and destabilize Hiruzen's leadership. Danzo convinced Hanzo that the Akatsuki was actually trying to overthrow him and take control of Land of Rain. In the anime, it is revealed that Danzo had Root members disguise themselves as Land of Earth ninja and commit atrocities to frame Hidden Stone Village and ensure the war between the Leaf and Stone would continue. Hanzo kidnapped Konan and forced Yahiko to kill himself to save her, and this event transformed Nagato into Pain. The kind, hopeful boy who believed in Jiraiya's teachings about peace died that day, replaced by someone who believed the world could only understand peace through overwhelming pain and destruction. Minato also fought against A, the future Fourth, the leader of the Land of Lightning, and Killer B during this war in an encounter that showed just how stupidly fast Minato really was. A and B used their incredible AOB combo that made them one of the most feared duos in the shinobi world, attacking with perfect synchronization at incredible speeds, dodging their attacks and countering before they could react. That battle spread Minato's legend even further. The war's conclusion came when Hidden Stone Village launched a massive invasion attempt with a force of 1,000 shinobi, trying to overrun the Leaf's defenses. Minato single-handedly stopped the entire invasion, teleporting across the battlefield and eliminating enemies so quickly that the Land of Earth forces broke and fled in terror. This incredible feat forced the leader of the Land of Earth, to finally accept a peace treaty with Konoha, officially ending the war. Minato's performance cemented his reputation and led directly to Hiruzen choosing him as the fourth leader of Konoha over Orochimaru, who was the other main candidate. Hiruzen stepped down as leader of Konoha after establishing a policy of reconciliation that didn't seek reparations from Land of Earth, trying to ensure lasting peace instead of planting seeds of resentment. But the aftermath of this war created serious problems for Konoha. The decision to make Minato leader of Konoha, while completely sidelining Fugaku Uchiha, the leader of the Uchiha clan, who'd also fought with distinction in the war, created deep resentment within the clan. The Uchiha felt disrespected and excluded from village leadership despite their contributions. And this perceived slight was one factor that eventually led to their planned coup and Itachi's mission to massacre the entire clan to prevent civil war. The Third Great Ninja War was the last conflict where multiple great nations fought each other simultaneously, and the armistice that ended it established diplomatic relationships that prevented similar wars from breaking out for more than a decade. But the trauma, losses, and consequences of this war created the conditions and motivations for the fourth and final conflict. Fourth Great Ninja War. This was completely different from all previous wars because for the first time ever in shinobi history, all five great nations weren't fighting each other, but instead united as the allied shinobi forces against a common enemy. The war was declared by Obito Uchiha, who was masquerading as Madara Uchiha, when the Five Kage held an emergency summit and refused to surrender Naruto Uzumaki and Killer Bee, the Nine Tails and Eight Tails Jinchuriki. Obito revealed his plan called the Eye of the Moon Plan Figen. He would capture the remaining two-tailed beasts, revive the 10 tails, become its Jinchuriki, and cast the infinite Tsukuyomi, an eternal illusion using the moon that would trap every living person on Earth in a dream world where they'd experience their perfect reality. To the leaders, this sounded insane, but to Obito, it was the only way to end the cycle of war and suffering. When the leaders refused his demands, Obito officially declared war on the entire shinobi world. Obito had formed a partnership with Kabuto Yakushi, who'd become obsessed with achieving immortality and surpassing Orochimaru after absorbing his remains. Kabuto used the Edo Tensei reanimation jutsu, which Tobirama had created and Orochimaru perfected, to resurrect countless powerful dead shinobi as immortal puppets with infinite chakra. The reanimated army included previous leaders from all 5 villages, members of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, Asuma Sarutobi, legendary fighters from past generations, like Hanzo, and dozens of other powerful ninja. Kabuto also reanimated the real Madara Uchiha, giving Obito's forces an absolutely unstoppable warrior. This army of immortal zombies who could be killed permanently and regenerated from any damage was terrifying. The allied shinobi forces had never faced anything like this then. How do you fight enemies who stay dead? The war began on the 8th of October and lasted only 2 days until the 10th of October, making it by far the shortest of all the great ninja wars, but absolutely the most intense and devastating in terms of what happened in that compressed time frame. The allied shinobi forces consisted of approximately 80,000 ninja from all 5 great nations, plus the samurai from the Land of Iron, split into 5 combat divisions, organized by specialty foving close range, mid-range, short-range, long-range, and special battle divisions, plus separate intelligence and medical divisions. They faced an army of roughly 100,000 white Zetsu clones, plus all the reanimated shinobi Kabuto had brought back, giving the enemy forces a slight numerical advantage, plus the massive edge of immortal soldiers. The war had multiple phases that escalated dramatically as it progressed. Initially, the allied forces fought against the reanimated shinobi and white Zetsu army, while Naruto was sequestered away on a hidden island, training with Killer Bee to control Kurama's chakra and perfect his tailed beast transformation. The allied forces struggled badly against the Edo Tensei summons because killing them was meaningless. They'd just regenerate. The only way to stop them was sealing them away, which required specialized teams and left those shinobi vulnerable. The white Zetsu clones added another nightmare element because they could perfectly mimic anyone's appearance and chakra, infiltrating the allied forces and causing paranoia. Shinobi were accidentally killing their own comrades, unable to tell who was real. When Naruto finally broke out of his containment and arrived on the battlefield using Nine Tails chakra mode, the entire momentum of the war shifted. His entrance was one of the most epic moments in the entire series because the allied forces had been getting absolutely crushed, and his arrival completely turned the tide. In his Nine Tails chakra mode, Naruto's sensory abilities were so enhanced that he could detect the white Zetsu imposters by sensing their malicious intent and different chakra signatures. He started pointing out the fakes, saving countless lives, and restoring the allied forces' ability to fight effectively. But he didn't stop there. Naruto shared Kurama's chakra with every shinobi on the battlefield through physical contact, giving them all protective chakra cloaks that boosted their speed, strength, and resilience dramatically. Seeing thousands of shinobi all glowing with the Nine Tails chakra was absolutely insane. That single act unified the entire allied forces emotionally and gave them the power to actually push back against the enemy. The battles across different fronts were absolutely wild. Gaara fought his reanimated father, the fourth leader of Sand, and proved he'd surpassed him. The 5 current leaders fought against the previous leaders of their villages, with battles that showcased the different generations' techniques. But then the real Madara Uchiha arrived on the battlefield and took on all 5 current leaders simultaneously, 30th and Shunade, Onoki, Gaara, and Mayfent, and he absolutely destroyed them. Madara was toying with the 5 strongest living ninja like they were children, dropping meteorites from the sky and cutting through their defenses effortlessly. His power was on a completely different level, and he nearly killed all 5 leaders before they barely managed to survive. Meanwhile, Itachi and Sasuke worked together to hunt down Kabuto and force him to release the Edo Tensei, finally ending the Immortal Army's regeneration. Most of the reanimated shinobi disappeared, but Madara had already been fully revived by that point. Then things escalated to cosmic levels of insanity when Obito and Madara successfully revived the Ten Tails using the chakra from the 7 captured tailed beasts, plus fragments of the 8 and 9 tails they'd collected. This massive beast was composed of all 9 tailed beasts combined into their original form, and it was unimaginably powerful. The 10 tails started firing tailed beast balls that could obliterate entire sections of the battlefield, destroying mountains and killing hundreds with each blast. The allied shinobi forces had to coordinate massive combined attacks, with thousands of ninja working together just to restrain it temporarily, and even then, the restraints only lasted minutes before it broke free. One of the war's most tragic and emotional moments was Neji Hyuga's death protecting Naruto and Hinata from the Ten Tails attack. Naruto had just lost Shikaku and Inoichi when the Ten Tails destroyed the Allied forces' headquarters, and watching Neji die in his arms nearly broke him completely. Naruto was on the verge of giving up, overwhelmed by the losses and the seemingly impossible task of defeating Obito, Madara, and the Ten Tails. But Hinata's encouragement and confession of her feelings helped him push through the despair and keep fighting. Naruto sharing Kurama's chakra with everyone again through a hand-holding chain gave the allied forces renewed hope and strength. The war saw some of the most incredible displays of power in the entire series. Might Guy opened the 8th gate of death, sacrificing his life force to gain power that surpassed even the 5 Cage. His fight against Six Paths Madara using Night Guy Fendi, a kick so powerful it distorted space itself, Tower Sinden, nearly killed Madara and bent his truth-seeking orbs that could disintegrate anything. Madara declared Guy the strongest taijutsu user he'd ever fought, which from someone who fought Hashirama meant everything. The first 4 leader of Konoha Fatirama, Tobirama, Hiruzen, and Minato Fenti were reanimated by Orochimaru at Sasuke's request and joined the battlefield. Seeing all 4 leader of Konoha fighting together was absolutely epic, using techniques like the massive barrier to trap the Ten Tails and Hashirama's wood-style constructs that dwarfed mountains. Obito eventually became the Ten Tails Jinchuriki after absorbing the beast, gaining 6 Paths power that put him on a godlike level. His body transformed, he gained truth-seeking orbs that could nullify any ninjutsu, and he became fast enough to keep up with Minato's flying thunder god. But Naruto and the allied forces, with Kakashi's help using his Kamui Sharingan to attack Obito from another dimension, managed to extract the tailed beasts from him through combined efforts. Then, Black Zetsu forced Obito to perform the Rin Rebirth, Earth, fully reviving Madara with his Rinnegan powers. Madara immediately became the Ten Tails Jinchuriki himself, making him even more dangerous than Obito had been, because of Madara's vastly superior combat experience and tactical genius. Madara activated the Infinite Tsukuyomi after becoming stronger than anyone in history, reflecting his Rin Sharingan off the moon and trapping virtually every living person on Earth in the Genjutsu. Only Team 7 and the Tailed Beasts were protected by Sasuke's Susanoo. But here is the final twist that changed everything. Tuen Black Zetsu, who everyone thought was Madara's creation, betrayed him by stabbing through his chest. Black Zetsu revealed he was actually Kaguya Otsutsuki's given form, and he'd been manipulating the entire Uchiha clan for centuries, orchestrating every major event to eventually revive his mother. Madara was just a pawn in a plan that stretched back 1,000 years. Kaguya was resurrected through Madara's body, transforming him into the origin of all chakra herself. Kaguya Otsutsuki was incomprehensibly powerful. Suti shift between dimensions, absorb any chakra-based attack, fire all killing ash bones that disintegrated anything they touched, and use gravity manipulation that could crush opponents. Team 7 Fun, Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi fought Kaguya across multiple dimensions, and this final battle pushed them beyond any limits they'd ever reached. Naruto and Sasuke had received power from Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the Sage of Six Paths, giving them Sunday and Moon seals that could seal Kaguya if they touched her simultaneously. The fight was absolutely desperate, with Kaguya nearly killing them multiple times. Obito's spirit even returned temporarily to help Kakashi, giving him both Mangekyo Sharingan and allowing him to use perfect Susanoo for a brief time. They eventually managed to seal Kaguya using the same Chibaku Tensei technique Hagoromo and Homura had used centuries ago, trapping her in another dimension. The Infinite Tsukuyomi was released. Madara died, and the war finally ended. The Fourth Great Ninja War concluded with the allied shinobi forces victorious, the Akatsuki organization destroyed, and the Ten Tails sealed away. The war resulted in approximately 40,000 casualties among the allied forces, despite lasting only 2 days, showing just how devastating those 48 hours were. But for the first time in history, all 5 great nations emerged from a war as genuine allies who fought side by side against a common threat, finally fulfilling Hashirama's original vision of peace between nations that he dreamed of when founding Konoha decades earlier.